Welcome, everyone, to episode 2 of the Quest and Chaos Untitled podcast, because we haven't picked a title yet, but I feel like there's going to be a title soon.
I think that it's titled the Untitled Quest and Chaos podcast.
Who just flipped that around on us? Because but last week you were arguing with me going, that's not a name. And I was like, that's the name. And now you're like, that's the name. I'm like, that's not a name.
Amy clearly did not watch the episode.
I was there. Why do I have to watch it?
My fantastic edits of the origin of the name, the Untitled podcast.
Okay, whatever.
So welcome, everybody, to the Untitled podcast.
Where we just talk about titles. And other things.
Yes. So thank you guys for reaching out. I know a lot of people jumped on our Discord, which has a brand new channel just for the Untitled podcast, where you gave us show ideas. So thank you for those that put them in the YouTube comments, as well as the Discord channel. Make sure you subscribe to our Discord channel. There is now a link on our webpage at the top right under
Discord?
Contact. And then it's Discord.
Cool.
Our old link was the MySpace, and
I'm bringing it back.
it was hard. It was hard for people to find because they're like, on MySpace, you have to look down at the below to see like that link actually took you to Discord. There's now a link there for our Facebook page, for our Discord page. So you can join us over on Discord and come hang out. It is a fantastic community. It's more than just talking about our channel and our shows. It's artwork, it's pet pictures, it's recipes. It's a lot of cool stuff that's happening over there on the Discord.
Sometimes there's cheese talk.
That's just chat as well. So we are going to we're going to talk about a couple of things. So we're going to give an update. We're going to do the Wick.
I like that name. That's going to stick.
There was no logo for that one, but we'll see if we can get a whole stinger, like a 3-minute animation for the Wick.
Okay.
And we also have an interview coming up with the CEO of Nord Games, Chris Haskins.
He didn't correct you when you said that, so I was like sticking with it.
Sounds good.
Do you want to take it from the top?
No.
I kind of feel like taking it from the top.
This is an amazing show.
Okay. All right. Whatever. So we should then kick into updates. So what is happening? I don't know what's happening some days.
So the biggest news this week is the new podcast feeds. So we now have available on all platforms. We have one-shots and short-shots. And that includes now the podcast specifically, includes all Mittens, includes the Saltmarsh campaign.
The 9-episode 3-shot,
yes,
as we're calling it affectionately.
The 9-episode 3-shot. So that is there. You can see Mitch McTortle. He came back in Chaos Agents last week, and we may just very well see a couple of familiar faces on Chaos Agents.
Are you promising me?
Yeah, it's going to happen.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
And for everybody who doesn't know what Chaos Agents are, we have on our Twitch channel, we have multiple D&D shows as well as Call of Cthulhu on Saturdays. And so Chaos Agents is the Tuesday at 7 p.m. Pacific time, is when we go live on Twitch with Chaos Agents, which is, it started out as Waterdeep and kind of went into a homebrew, overarching character backstory, random wanderings through Saltmarsh and other places. But yeah, it's D&D 5e.
So yeah, that is our Tuesday Dungeons and Dragons 5e show. We have our currently on Mondays, we are playing Carbon 2185. And here's the big update for QNC. That's going to continue for from the day we record this, 2 more episodes. From the day you listen to it, there's 1 more left. Then we're going to have our Mitten, DM'd by our very own James Arano. And then we're going to do 3 more episodes of Carbon. In May, as the quarantine is happening, we're bringing Natural One back when the world reopens.
Yep. And so again, for people who have not watched any of our live streams or like seen our other stuff, Carbon 2185 is essentially cyberpunk in the future, obviously 2185 in San Francisco, but it's based on the D&D 5e mechanics. So it's actually very simple for those of you who are D&D fans to kind of pick it up. And if you were interested in playing it, because a lot of the mechanics are really just sort of like a very simplistic version of D&D 5e set in the future, essentially.
So there are backgrounds, there are all of your traditional stats, all your skills, very compatible, very, very, very 5e, which was super fun to get into because it wasn't learning a whole new dice system, learning a whole new, how do I pool dice together? Oh, why are there elves in the future?
Can I disengage? Or like those kind of actions are relatively similar.
The one thing that it doesn't have, at least in the core rule book, are feats. But so we just leveled up to level 4. So we got our stat boost at level 4 as you do. No feats to choose from.
I'm okay with that, though, because I'm finding that the simplicity of the system is actually what I like the most about it, is just the fact that it's very easy to play. And it doesn't really bother me that I don't have 100 options. Yeah. But that's just me.
I was hoping that there might be a way to expand characters into different areas. So I don't want to multi-class into like a hacker. But, I play a cyber surgeon, you play a hacker.
Yep.
Our hacking skill is the same.
Yep. And
our
my medicine skill is the same. Yeah. Because we're twins.
Yes.
Go figure.
But, it would be nice if there was a feed in there for me to be like, oh, no, I can hack certain things. Or, I'm sure that it just comes down to the player asking and the DM saying, yes, you can do that.
I was going to say, why we could just say that it's a role-playing thing. Like, could you hack medical devices?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Can I hack firearms? Yes.
That'd be better. Honestly, I think that would be a better use of your time than trying to get into my grill about what I do as a hacker, with big systems and things like that. You should hack weapons.
Yeah. Yes. Anyway, so we're playing a bunch of that. It's super fun. Warren is doing an amazing job making it super fun and easy for us to continue streaming. So we had a big month last time with Tavern Upkeep.
Yep.
Getting fully hit for our first time.
Yep. So we were fully funded I was like, what month is it? I don't know. What month was that? Who knows?
For March. Yep. Fully funded in March. Interesting thing, a lot of that came at the very end.
Yeah, it was a really nice push from our community to see that Tavern Upkeep bar. So again, we're talking about the live stream on Twitch, and at the bottom we have this overlay that says Tavern Upkeep, which essentially tells people where we are in regards to funding our rent.
Yeah.
So if you've seen episode 1, it's it now comes down to what is rent.
Yeah.
And so what was that? I think it was the 30th or the 31st.
Yeah, it was the 31st.
Last day, yeah. It was the last day of March when people are like, I'm just going to give this much to like make that bar go to 100.
Super big push. A Panthrop was super awesome. They did a bunch of sub giveaways. Gifting is the term. And then put a whole bunch of bits in to get us over that threshold. So there's a big thank you to that. We'll have more news coming up as we get closer into the month of May.
April. Remember April?
We're in April.
Yeah.
Okay. So anyway, we'll have more news coming up about that and the Tavern Upkeep and some cool things that are happening.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining our Patreon. We had a great couple of people join our Patreon from the last episode on where to fund us. That's great because then the players don't get any bits. That's my favorite part of it.
Which, as a GM, you're just like, I'm not going to make this easier for you.
Exactly. The one thing that the Patreons do get right now is an extra entry into the mitten to make characters. We're going to do that drawing very soon. So if you are a Twitch subscriber or you are a patron, please go to the Discord as soon as you can if you are interested in putting your name in the hat to make a character for our April mitten.
Yep, and the mitten is essentially an arena battle, but we've been kind of expanding it. So we saw some of James's plans to what he's going to do on Monday. What is that? Is that the 30th or the 29th of April?
It's something.
Yeah, it's the Blur's Day of Blesduary. And so it's going to be a little bit more elaborate. But essentially, our subscribers and patrons have the option to make characters for our players to play, and then somebody gets to run combat. And so traditionally, it was set out just as like a combat mechanic, where it's like you just get to battle it out, it's just gauntlet bloody. But I think that we're becoming more and more interested in trying new things in that space.
Yeah. So doing a combination between a one shot and a just straight arena battle. You know, having that story element, and not just fighting, because 5e fighting is super interesting to some, not super interesting to others.
And it becomes a battle of attrition. I think we talked about this a couple times just privately, amongst ourselves, is that it just becomes a slog where it's like, okay, 7 damage, okay, 10 damage, and you're battling, things that are 110 hit points. So it becomes really exhausting. So 4 hours later, you're still trying to kill the wizard in the back, and you're like, ugh, are we done yet?
Yeah. So that's going to be happening. Be sure you get your name in quickly. We're going to do the drawing pretty quick so that everybody has time to create the characters and review the characters.
I like how you say quickly. Do you even know what day it is? Do you even know what month it is?
Nope. It's Farch. Farbarch. Farbarchuary.
For Barcher.
Yeah. Okay. So I think that's all of that stuff.
Yeah, that stuff. Whatever.
This very show has its own podcast feed as well. And we are, by the time you see this, we are on all of the major, should be at least on all of the major elements. It's all been submitted to Stitcher, to podcast, to iTunes, to Google's its own thing. It scrapes the internet. Imagine that.
Yeah, funny. Saved your information.
So you should be able to see this podcast there as well. All right, I think that's all the updates.
Okay. Cool.
A lot of updates.
Not really. I mean, essentially, to whittle it down, we've gotten our podcast act together.
Yeah.
That's a big thing. I mean, for us, that's huge. Just to get it together. We're doing a mitten. Mm-hmm. Thanks everybody for hanging out on Discord. It's fun. I wish I could be in there more because I have nothing but sassy things to say, as my mother would say. And we're doing some carbon and some mitten. I would want to do some other crazy stuff, but we'll see if time allows it.
We are looking at a 2-shot, maybe a 3-shot, looking at the module of another thing that's coming up. We're not talking about it yet because the Kickstarter date has been pushed a little bit.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
So end of the month, look for another 2 or 3-shot of a very different thing. It's still 5e, so it's not that different at all. Probably on Thursdays.
Way to sell it.
Yeah.
It's by an indie publisher.
Yes.
Yep. So that'll be cool.
Cool. More on that to come later. I think that hits us too. In fact, let me scroll this down. That's going to... You take over.
No, I just wanted to make weird noises, because you haven't created... So if I make a weird made-up song right now, will you cover it with an actual animation?
No.
Never mind then. Forget it. I was like, the Wick.
Ready for the Wick.
Yep.
All right, so it is the Wick. So, Amy, tell me about this week in Kickstarter. What is happening? What have you funded and what have you not funded? And what have you not told me about?
Well, actually, I didn't even put what I funded and didn't tell you about. I told you about it.
Wait, that should be in here.
I didn't, though.
We're going to talk about it. It's right up front.
No.
Oh, you mean there's something you didn't tell me about?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't know if I'm still going to tell you about it. Anyway, can we just talk about the things that we do fund and
know between this married couple?
And also, that's because we get emails. So you get an email, I get an email, we all get an email from Loresmith, so there's no way to secretly fund things without letting the other person know. So can you tell me about who is Loresmith?
So Loresmith is a gentleman out of the Netherlands.
Yep, another Chris.
Another Chris out of the Netherlands. He does some cool stuff. He did the Remarkable Inns and their
I don't know. I should actually have had the book.
It's actually titled Remarkable Inns and Their Drinks. Or Remarkable Taverns and Their Drinks. I personally think it would be I would love to see a supplement. Remarkable Taverns and Their Drunks. Like a bunch of drunk NPCs to go into those taverns rather than their specific drinks.
Do I get a page?
Yeah. Yes. Anyway, so they did a couple of books. Nord Games is the U.S. distributor for them and fulfillment. So if you are in the U.S. and you order a Lord Smith product via one of the websites, it's going to come from Nord Games.
Yep, there's the one who houses all the stuff. So, and we've had the excellent luck of being friends with Chris Haskins from Nord Games and all the guys there, and actually play games at their warehouse, which is kind of fun.
Yeah. So that is.
But what specifically
what
is
are they
Lord
doing?
Smith launching?
You should tell us.
All right, because I read about this and I have thoughts about it, and of course I forgot my props. Yeah, I was going to bring props.
Okay.
Don't worry about it. Anyway, so they are funding something called Heroic Challenges for DMs and Players. And so this, again, this launched a couple days ago to us, which was May 7th. It has 26 days left. So if you are interested in funding or at least participating, you can still go ahead and purchase some of this. And they are story prompt cards. And so the whole tag is story prompt cards that encourages creative play and gives DMs choices and rewards that go beyond just XP. And so essentially... You
know what we should do?
Huh?
Let's watch the video.
Okay, let's watch the video first.
You guys watch the video. We'll watch the video. And then we'll know what we're talking about.
No, we won't.
Okay, go watch the video.
From the creators of Remarkable Inns and Dungeon Discoveries comes Heroic Challenges, role-playing cards that augment your gaming sessions with engaging challenges and rewards. Whether used by the GM or in the hands of the players, Heroic Challenges adds an exciting new dimension to your game without railroading players or sidelining the GM. Spark immersive role-playing, teamwork, or even poignant dilemmas that mesh with your story in a synergetic way. Reward players for their creativity in new ways beyond just XP or gold. The starter set comes in a small, durable box that's easy to carry and contains 2 decks of challenges and rewards to get you started. Every card offers multiple choices and plenty of room for your imagination. Heroic Challenges cards are system neutral and easy to use in any fantasy role-playing game. Are you up to the challenge? Please help us bring this product to life. Share it with your role-playing friends on social media and consider backing.
All right, so that was actually Thomas's favorite part was the open with the flames.
Yes.
Nothing else. He just spaced out during the rest of the video. Just kidding. No, he did, really.
Yeah, I did.
Okay. So the one thing that I found interesting about this is there are other card decks like this, but for story writers.
Yes.
So essentially what I'm gathering from all of this information is that you get a card or you can pull a card or, you know what I mean? You can give a player a card or you can, as a DM, use a card to essentially give you story prompts or little things to do. So as a character, you can have an extra goal, like you were reading, it said, become invisible or something like that.
Right. Entertain somebody to gain their trust. I think that's, it's one of those like session building.
Yeah.
Prompts. You might not use it at your table while you're playing, but use it beforehand as you're prepping. Mm-hmm. They have other cards. We actually have a couple of decks here. Yep. So the Dungeon Discoveries deck. This one is Fumbled Searches, right? So people are out there and they're like, I want to investigate the cave, and they fumble. You can grab this deck and just grab something from the top and something from the bottom.
Okay,
and
so what does that say?
A number of different choices, right? So I might say, be like, you find a terrible quality pot of rat stew. So there are.
And I eat it. Then what?
So there are 4 items on the top.
Yeah.
For instance, this one is weathered and patched, long overdue, terrible quality, or ripped and torn. And then underneath are items. So traveling cloak, pot of rat stew, iron lockpicks, or gnomish songbook. So you might, a long overdue gnomish songbook from a library somewhere. That may end up being your entire campaign, is returning that gnomish songbook back to its...
No, knowing players, they make it the entire campaign. It's not actually the goal of the campaign. That's just what they want to do.
Well, I mean, that's we did something similar to this on Chaos Agents, where they went into the Zablob shop in Waterdeep Dragon Heist, and it's full of random purple knickknacks, right? So they rolled on the Player's Handbook random item table, which would be, you could use something like this for. And one of them was a wine-stained deed.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Eventually, they came to realize that that long-stained deed is actually vital to the overall quest that they are on. I mean, that obviously I made it that. But, for a while it was like, oh, I need to find this deed so I can retire in this house or whatever. No, I made that just random weird thing. It's actually almost the crux of the entire campaign.
Interesting.
So you could do that Gnomish songbook could be the entire campaign where that you are on a mission to return. And that's what's fun about decks like this.
Yeah. I think there is a potential for a dark side to that deck. I know you're probably like, what are you talking about? The dark side to a prompt deck.
Fumbled search.
No, not even that. I mean, it's one of those things where I'm not really a proponent of having these deep, dark, brooding secrets from my compatriots in a party. I feel it can be, in some cases, if played incorrectly, derivative from the group. It can split the party a lot. It can actually be a hindrance as opposed to something that, people want to overcome as a challenge. I have yet to see people successfully have a secret and keep that secret where the secret doesn't, in some ways, potentially cause problems at the table. Yeah. I mean, what's your take on that?
I mean, just in general of having secrets. I'm not a fan. I mean, I think that D&D is at its best when your group has the same goal, and you are working together to find it. And even having your own individual goals sometimes gets in the way of that.
Yeah. And I want to clarify on the fact that it's not just, I have a secret. It's like in Cthulhu, my character has a quote unquote secret. I don't keep it very secretive because my character is kind of an idiot. But it's the fact that I don't ever make that. I try and play that secret to our benefit, not to our, hindrance. So I'm never going to run off and be like, I got to go do my secret thing because I have a secret, because I have a secret problem or whatever. I try and use that secret to our advantage, where I think that if some of these sort of like character-given or character-driven secrets that you give or character-driven goals, if they're not sort of weaved back into the story, could become a potential hazard where it's like one person is always like, I have to like fight 50 dragons to like, to fulfill this one card goal or whatever. Doesn't that even happen in Gloomhaven? Isn't there a secret component in that?
Everybody has their own retirement goal. And every game, they have their own goal. Those are often detrimental to the party. I think I've made my goal once. It's, I would much rather us succeed in the adventure than, have my character keep leveling up. Even though I would like to unlock whatever characters are in the box. That's just Gloomhaven.
Yeah, I was going to say Gloomhaven, the game no one wins.
You want to hold up that? That is their the soft cover version.
And drunks.
of Remarkable Inns and their drunks.
Well, and apparently there is a drunk in here. They address duels and bar fighting. But I did see, actually, while I was flipping through here, I did see some bar patrons here. Jameson Boonsale. Male human commoner, so there are some drunks here just to make you happy, Thomas. Anyway,
so that is system agnostic. It's not 5e specific. It is story based items to help you kind of figure out your games.
Yep. And so with the Kickstarter, I know they're doing, what does it look like? Like a PDF set of printable cards that you can do. You can also have the cards, sent to you in the box. There's also like this not weird, but like it's like a card holder. So you could actually have your card set in front of you
It's like a little player tray with like a pencil holder, a place for the card, some dice. This prototype one is 3D printed.
Yep.
That I can see right away. I see the print lines. It says 3D printable card holder and dice tray STL file. So they actually are not going to send you this. They're going to send you a digital file that you can print yourself.
If you have a printer.
Or find, there are printers, people that do printing for you. So if you are around us, let us know. We might do some printing for some people.
Yeah, Thomas will get the machine started up again. They go 24 hours a day.
All right. So that is Loresmiths.
Yep.
They're Quest and Chaos adjacent because they're very closely aligned with Nord Games. And so are we.
Yep. And honestly, using things like these cards, the luck deck, and in fact, let me just grab the luck deck right here. That's never a shame to pimp your friends. The luck deck, I don't know if we've talked about it too much. If you do watch our D&D streams, we do things like every time somebody rolls a 20, you get a card. When you roll a natural 1, the DM gets a card. And so, it makes the play a little bit more interesting. To me, it's almost gotten me so spoiled that I can't play without it. Where in our home game, I'm like, do we have anything to let me re-roll that 1? Because I'm so used to like being able to kind of compensate with some sort of like extra paraphernalia from a company, that like lets us sort of recombat and just go, oh, let me try that again. Or, oh, that was terrible. Or, oh, can we add this? Where sometimes you're like, your 1s now in my home game are just 1s.
Oh, yeah.
And it's terrible.
So, I don't want to get too much into it, but Roll20 allows you to upload your own custom decks like this. And we just may happen to have some playtest deck that we're going to upload coming up that we're going to playtest.
Yep, so that'll be fun.
But we don't want to talk about that because I had the idea last night.
I'm sure everything at 3 a.m. is the best idea ever.
So that's it. So that's Heroic Challenges, role-playing cards for players and GMs from Loresmith. I think the next one up here is an interesting one, potentially. It's an interesting story, at least to get started. So,
Tales from the Loop.
It is, it's Tales from the Loop. So
they're launching.
What is Tales from the Loop?
Oh God, where do I start with what is Tales from the Loop?
How did it start? Where did it go?
I'm just into like hands and weird noises today. Okay, so I'm sure I'm going to slaughter this gentleman's name because that's what I do. That's part of my job. Simon.
Done and done.
Simon Stalenhag. He created, or at least it was introduced. I don't know when he created it. I haven't interviewed him. He's not my best friend or anything. So he created art and a narrative art book back in 2014. And do you want to kind of talk about what the look is? Because it's a little bit 80s, 90s kind of but mixed with...
So it's set in the 80s, in alternate 80s, where there is future technology. So there are mechs, but they seem old already in the 80s, right? So it's set in the 80s, and they seem old, but they were designed in the 80s. It's kind of like Fallout, where Fallout is... Imagine a future world, but everything was designed as if it was the 50s, right? So you've got...
Well, technically, in his world, it's the 60s.
Yeah.
It was like 67 or something was sort of like the impetus of when, when the technology was introduced. So in the 80s, it would have been old when he was drawing it.
Gotcha. So that kind of... and he was drawing that in the 20 teens. I don't know how you call it.
In the aught whatevers.
Yeah. In the aught ones? Yeah. Anyway.
Aught tens. Anyway.
So those started off as sort of narrative art books, which were these scenes from this time period.
Yeah. And so it takes place, obviously he's in Scandinavia somewhere. I can't remember if he was in Sweden specifically.
I don't remember.
But the long story short, it kind of looks like the upper Midwest. So Thomas is from South Dakota and I'm from Wisconsin, and a lot of the scenes look like they could have taken place, in somebody's
41st parallel.
Yeah, in somebody's backyard. So that art was published back in 2014, and then in 2017, Simon and another gentleman created an RPG based on that artwork. And then now, if you are an Amazon Prime subscriber, you can now watch the TV shows, and I air quote TV shows, on Amazon.
So we actually watched the pilot, which was slow.
It was slow. I mean,
it's its style. I don't know if the RPG or the board game is supposed to be in a similar pace of, it's weird what's happening, but nothing really happens. The pilot was okay. Anyway. So
I have thoughts about this, but I'll save that for movie talk.
I thought it was a half an hour of content put into a 1 hour show. That's what I think.
Well, which is okay. Never mind. I'm going to let
honestly,
it go.
That is television.
This is not movie talk. This is the Wick. Okay, so let's move on, because I will fight you on this. I will fight you in the fact that I thought it was very interesting.
Content in slow zooms.
Yeah, but here's the interesting part is that they just sort of moved past all of this weird tech mech technology.
Yeah.
And like a lot of the slow movement was on like the snow falling and the kid's hand in the snow and stuff like that. And so that has
They didn't have enough content to make a TV show.
Okay. All right. Anyway, so back to the Wick, away from movie talk. So the premise of this is that you play kids, and so, between the time you go to school and you come home, you are essentially mystery solvers. So you are investigating phenomena that happens on this island, and it feels somewhat in line with what the movie is, or in the movie, the web series or the TV series is like, in the fact that
it's a particle accelerator, which is the loop, which then causes all of these weird things to happen.
Yeah.
So it has a core. This is in the show. I don't know what the RPG is because I didn't know about it. But it has a core that is sort of the core of the loop, and weird things happen, and it's like moving and stuff.
Yep. And so it just, anyway.
Yeah.
So you essentially are investigating these weird things. And so in the Kickstarter itself, the one interesting thing that I find written about it, and I would be really interested to see if somebody's doing a playthrough or if they would let us do a playthrough, is that the tag is that there's a mechanic where there's no downtime between players.
Yeah.
And so for me, I find that to be something that drives me crazy about D&D combat,
Right.
about playing games with certain people, is the fact that it's like, while you're playing, my brain is thinking about what I'm doing. I'm absorbing what you're doing and saying, what's my move based on what's going to happen around the table? By the time it gets to me, what should I do in order to push us further around the table again, to kind of further our goal? Other people like to play, and again, drives me insane, is that it gets to you, and then they're like, well, what should I do? I'm like, what have you been doing for the last 15 minutes?
Yeah.
I'm like, there's plenty of time to think about this. We weren't like heavy into discussion on like War and Peace and stuff like that. Where was your brain during this entire time? Yeah. But that's me and my obsession. So without further ado, I think we should watch the video and kind of the cool aesthetic that it has.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's watch the video. And welcome back after watching that video that did not tell us much at all. Just like the TV show, it was a lot of slow pushes on game pieces with some text, no dialogue to speak of.
It's got an aesthetic, though. It has a look.
Yeah, boring is the aesthetic.
Okay.
Aesthetic.
All right.
Anyway, so we're gonna reach out, see if we can get play this game here, or maybe back to Kickstarter. We will. This is one of those that we did not back yet.
We'll see.
I don't know. I might kind of want to.
I mean, it's one of those things where just the mechanic where it says interesting mechanic where there's no downtime between play turns, which makes me feel like, does that mean there's no play order? Does that mean there's a play order? Does that mean that if you're doing something, can I interrupt it and be like, let me just add this thing to your thing? Like, how does that mechanic work?
Yeah,
you know?
I think that's definitely something that I would like to see played out, especially, with the personalities that we have here on the channel to see how it plays out.
Or is it like Detective or the Sherlock Holmes game that we played where, you're just basically given solving a crime and there is no real turn base. You just decide as a group, let's go here to the library and do a thing. Let's research this. And then you all go like a Scooby Gang to the library and use whatever skills you have to do that. So.
Okay. I mean, we'll see. So that's it. I mean, the miniatures look really cool.
Yeah.
The mechs, the people, the art looks good.
You can still buy the art. So when I was surfing the internet for a little bit, you can actually buy some of this art and it is relatively inexpensive. I think like a 1 foot by 1 foot print of his stuff is like $50 or something.
Yeah.
So it's not inaccessible if you're really kind of into this look.
So you want to know what's interesting? Even on the Kickstarter right here, they have a link to print and play files.
Oh, cool.
So we could actually download this, print it, and play it, and just see how the play goes. Maybe that's something we look at doing.
Yep, absolutely. So I mean, it's one of those things where I was actually kind of interested in it just because it looks very different. So we'll see what the gameplay actually has in store.
Yeah. So anyway, that's it for the Wick right now.
Yeah, because I'm not going to tell you about the pins I bought.
Oh, you did tell me about those.
Okay, good. At least there's
and that's fine. Well, we're going to need a link. Was it a Kickstarter or was it buy them?
It was a Kickstarter. In fact, if you want to give me a second, I can grab my computer.
Yeah, I can just search for it. Do I just search for cat Dungeons and Dragons characters?
All I know is that I'm not the only person.
I need to follow you on Kickstarter.
Yeah, you do need to follow me just to. Oh, you can do that.
Yeah, so then I would see everything you back.
No, it's my money. I just want to do what I want to do.
Okay, cat. That's interesting.
You found it right away, didn't you? It's not that one.
It's not the farting cat pins?
No, it's not the farting cat pins, but now that we've seen that, guess where new money is going.
So it is the Black Cat RPG hard enamel pins.
They're adorable.
Wow, it's 36,000 of their $2,000 goal.
Yeah.
So it is.
And they're probably halfway done because right now it says 16 days to go. And I think I backed this, Monday morning? I'm not going to tell you how much paid, but essentially.
I can look. Did you get them all?
No, I didn't. Well,
did you get 10 pins or more? Okay.
Anyway, so these are adorable little cat pins, again, based on D&D. So it exemplifies, and we'll just probably pop up a picture or something like that. Yeah. It basically shows like a wizard cat and a barbarian cat and the cleric cat and a druid cat and things like that. And they're just freaking adorable. And the pins are about $10 per pin. And so you can essentially... Plus, like, if you spend $10, then every pin in addition to that is another $8. So really, at some point, it just comes down to we're shipping you a pin versus shipping you 50 pins. What do you want?
Yeah, and these are really good size pins. When we were doing our Foxy regular pin, we had I think an inch and a half or an inch and 3/4 in one direction, and that bumped the price up quite a bit per pin. So $8 a pin is a really good price for this. The size of pin and the artwork is just cool looking.
Yeah.
The Ranger, the Paladin.
And And
Warlock's probably my favorite.
Okay. So I don't know if we have to. I think I get to decide once it funds. I can say which
10 you are going to get.
Well, okay. Except I think I did 11. But
Okay. Anyway, so that is really going to do it for the Wick Black Hat RPG hard enamel pins.
Really, I feel like this is just us talking. This is literally us going through our like credit cards and just being like, "What did you spend this month? What did you spend this week that I didn't tell you about?" This is really what this episode is about. Okay. Do you want to
I think
move on and talk about what we talked about with Chris?
Yes.
Okay.
Let's do it.
Okay. So, how did you get to meet Chris Haskins?
So, DungeonCon 2019.
Mm-hmm.
Is that it? Yeah.
Yeah, because remember, you guys were like, it feels like we've known them forever. Just that's how fast
in the summer, yeah. So we met them in February 2019. We started working with Andrew and talking to them and Chris.
And this is Nord Games. So
Nord Games.
Yep, these are the decks I was showing you guys. They also have books.
Yeah, a book right there.
I brought some books over. Yep. And in fact, what was it? We talked a little bit about.
We talked about Skullduggery.
Bestiary. Yep.
Ultimate NPCs.
Yep, Ultimate NPCs Warfare. So they do D&D. Nord Games does D&D ancillary products.
Yes.
And so
and some of them are 5e specific. Some of them are system agnostic. Amy and I contributed to their Spectacular Settlements book.
Yep.
We each made at least one settlement to go into it, which you can purchase on PDF right now at the link down below. But you can, I don't know where I'm going.
I was asking you how you first met Chris because it felt like we've known Chris forever, but we've only known him for a year, and we've been kind of working. We use his products in all of our D&D games on stream. And again, too, it's one of those things where it's really kind of opened up the game for me.
Yeah.
And reading some of that content, it's more a little bit like, here's how to help you be a better player and a better GM, and giving you some options and having you sort of think through what you're doing, as opposed to, here's my player's handbook and this is what a sorcerer does and this is what a barbarian does. And at second level, you can do this. And at third level, you can do this. And this is how you walk and this is how you do this. They have books that tell you, this is how to build a trap. And, so it really kind of gets your brain thinking about expanding your gameplay and being more creative with it.
One of the interesting things about how we met is, so DungeonCon is not a big convention at all. And they had a very small table in the dealer room. And just walking through, Games of Berkeley has a huge ChessX booth there. So I'm always getting dice.
Dice, yeah.
Especially dice that are out of print. Searching through the big thing and pulling them all out. But I passed this small little table, a couple of guys there, and they had some decks and they had books. And, it's just looking at this book, you're like, oh, wow, that's a nice looking book. For a third-party publisher. And then, you open it up and it's got, great layout, great artwork inside of it. You're like, wow, this is a legit thing. And we talking to them and they're local to us. And we invited them over to our talk that we were giving a little bit later on our panel about Quests and Chaos. And so neither of those people were Chris, the CEO, the person we're going to talk to now. We go to our panel, we start talking, and Chris is there about streaming, because he wants to learn, how we started, how all of this, how we can work together, and then suddenly we're best friends working together, having drinks at the bar.
Yeah, that's how fast it kind of happened.
And then literally 3 months later, we're doing a whole bunch of stuff. And we're like, how long have we known each other? 5 years? It's no, just 3 months. So it's been a great ride so far. We're looking forward to future collaborations, and that's it for that.
Anyway, yeah. So we, again, we just wanted to talk to Chris and kind of let people sort of get a look into what creators who do things like books and card decks and things like that, people who actually make the content, like what their process is, what their struggles are.
Yeah.
Like one of those things where, have you ever thought about yourself publishing a deck or publishing a module, and like, how do you go about doing stuff like that? So I thought Chris would be an interesting person, to reach out to and talk to. And so, I was about to say, here's our conversation with Chris.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to our interview with Chris Haskins, CEO at Nord Games. Crazy time. We're all working from home. What is happening?
Actually, it looks like he's working from a town, a medieval town with his own protector behind him.
It's the library from Artifices of Courtstoll Tower. So it's the library in Courtstoll that I'm working from today. This is one of our backdrops for conventions, which unfortunately a lot have been canceled so far due to this pandemic situation that we're all in.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it would be nice we'll get into that sort of area of what's happening now, but I think we want to go back and kind of start in the beginning, right? So this is a behind the scenes look at our industry and our channel, and with you, what is the behind the scenes history of Nord Games?
Yeah. So how did you start? Yeah. How did you start Nord Games?
The very beginning of Nord Games was inspired by my uncle, who got us into gaming, us being my brother and I, got us into gaming, tabletop gaming, and Dungeons and Dragons especially. And it really just stemmed from us wanting to turn our own creativity into something that other people could consume. And so I think that the very first thing that really kicked us off was when we created bookmarks for 5th edition D&D books. I was constantly flipping around through my books, and I always wanted something besides Post-it notes to mark specific areas, like during the character creation, your classes and backgrounds and race and all that stuff. So we created a set of bookmarks that would do that for you, and that sort of really got the ball rolling with Nord Games creating D&D content. After that, it was about 2016 that Ralph Stickley and we wrote the Ultimate NPCs Skullduggery, and that was a huge success, and it just snowballed from there, really. And the whole idea was, can we get the kind of things that we enjoy using and creating into the hands of other people and allow them to enjoy them as well and expand off of them?
So that was a question that I was thinking about, was when you said, can we get the things that we enjoy into the hands of people who might enjoy them too? Was there any actual like marketing research done or anything like that? Or was it just sort of like, we should do this, let's try it?
Kickstarter essentially allows you to test that kind of thing with minimal development costs. You got to get your artwork done, design and all that, but production, which is the biggest part of it, usually you rely on the excitement from the community to be able to raise those funds to be able to do the production run. So it was one of those things where you have an idea and you run with it, and if it works, it works. If it doesn't, then hopefully you didn't spend too much in it. But as far as market research, we really didn't start doing that until a couple of years after because we started branching out into other things. So we started doing monster books and card decks and things that were a little bit different. And we survey our customer base to find out if they might be interested in the stuff that we're developing, obviously. But it seems like if we're interested in it because we are gamers, other gamers are probably going to be interested in it as well, and to varying degrees.
What were you doing before this? Because when you hit on something where it's like, if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. If it didn't, what was the thing that you would be doing or you were doing before it worked?
Yes. So my fallback position, I've been in web development, web design, just digital media and all that kind of stuff since I was a teenager, really. So maybe 20 years now. Okay. And so I've always been creative in that way. I've always been interested in developing websites. I worked for many years as a marketing manager, so did a lot of work handling marketing aspects for different companies and stuff. So that's what I probably would be doing if I weren't running this company. And now we have, and now we can see the dog's tail now and then.
Yeah.
All right.
But we now have staff to be able to do that. So I'm involved with everything with the business. So I'm involved with marketing, but we rely on our marketing manager to do all of the market research and really analyzing what products may be better to go after at a specific time than others. And so, yeah, once you get to the point where you have enough people to, assign to different tasks, you go ahead and do that. So it's not just a one-man show anymore. In the case of Ralph and myself, a two-man show.
So I kind of going back to that. So you made these bookmarks with your brother, and then you jumped to Ralph and I wrote this book. Like, how did you meet Ralph, and was that how did that process go?
That's
and
a long, interesting. Yeah.
When did Nord become an actual company? Was it with the bookmarks, or was it after?
Well, my brother and I, we started the company back in 2011, and we just sort of, dabbled and didn't really do much with it. It wasn't until, so the reason I know Ralph is my wife and I met while working at a summer camp. The year after we met, she went back and worked there again, and she was an equestrian coordinator. So she handled all the horses and all the tack and the riding of the horses and all that stuff. And she had a coworker named Lou, and Lou was from England on sort of exchange program or something, just I think they call it Camp America or something like that. So they bring people from all over the world to come and work at this camp that we worked at. And so they became fast friends, and Ralph is Lou's partner. So the two of them, we got to know very, very well. And I forget what year we went out and visited them. I think it was before 2016, because we went out to England, spent some time with them, played games and whatnot. They're big fans of D&D. They're both actors as well, so that makes it even more fun. They're very good at improv and stuff. And Ralph is an incredible dungeon master too. All theater of the mind. He doesn't really do minis and all that stuff. He does all theater of the mind. We've had some great adventures. So we got to talking about D&D a lot. And then they came out, I think, sometime after that, and we actually created the whole concept while on a road trip together. And that's how it all started. And then we still had some money left over from the bookmark project, and I said, well, I'm willing to throw some money at this to get some artwork done and all that. And that's really where everything started to take off.
So that's when you transitioned into this is what I'm doing. Is that when you transitioned into this is what I'm doing versus I'm still going back to my day job and this is something that I do after 5:00 and every Saturday and Sunday?
It was probably about a year after. So probably 2017 rolled around when I could truly make Nord Games my full-time gig. I think that's how the timing worked out. It's all kind of fuzzy when you really start to break it down. I mean, I could go back and look at the calendar and stuff, but I'm pretty sure it was 2016 that Skullduggery really was a hit. And then we had Critical Hit decks and so on and so forth. And then it was 2017 when I could really step back from my full-time gig and spend all my time doing Nord Games. And then it was 2019, we started to acquire more. We got an office. It was one big move. We weren't just operating out of my garage anymore, and we had employees and payroll and all the things. So I think that 2019 was really our breakout year to become I don't want to say legitimate company, but a more seasoned company and having all the things you'd expect a company to have.
What were those little markers to you saying that I need to really devote my time to this? Like, what was the one thing or the couple things where you're just like, I need to devote my time to doing this full time, otherwise it won't be successful? And then also just the other tipping point is, when do we bring people on? Like, as far as somebody who's trying to do both, a lot of people are, in the hustle culture, and they're just like, when is this, hobby or dream or, part-time hustle that I'm doing need to actually be a full-time hustle? Like, what were those things that told you do this?
Well, a couple of factors. One was the amount of revenue we were making, obviously, justified bringing on more people, and the amount of tasks that we had required more people. There's just only so much you can do as one person. You become a bottleneck, and you need to handle, in our case, Ralph would handle all art direction. The two of us would do all the writing, but he would handle all the art direction. He would handle the layout. He would handle getting files and stuff to production, that kind of thing. And then also Lou would be involved as well, because she's a talented writer. She would do a lot of editing and stuff for us. And so you'll see her name on the credits on a lot of our books and products. And then, as we needed to, and then my roles were primarily having to do with keeping the website up, doing all the sales and marketing, getting new retailers interested, and all that. And then we started to really set our sights bigger and bigger, going to conventions, getting into distribution and things like that. And that requires a lot more time, and you only have so many hours in the week to get these things done, and you just can't do it sometimes as just a single person. It also depends, I think, on the number of products that you have, because when you have, let's say, one product, that's a lot easier to manage than in our case. I think we're up to 20 something. So there's an awful lot of SKUs you have to keep track of. The order fulfillment too. That's what I was doing out of my garage every single day. There was a certain amount of orders. You got to pack those up, take them to the post office. So yeah, there's a tipping point, and you get uncomfortable with the amount of work that you're doing, and then you got to go, if you can justify the costs, then you got to go and get someone else involved. And it started small. We got someone in to do order fulfillment every day and customer service. So that took one thing off of my plate. And then eventually we got enough revenue to where we could have salespeople. We could have marketing person. We can have just people who can help out, be in for part-time and help out during Kickstarters, fulfillment and that kind of thing. So there's no perfect formula, I think, but you get uncomfortable with the amount of work that you're doing. And then if your revenue can justify it, you get other people who are talented and have the right skill set involved or can be trained. And that alleviates you. And I think overall allows you to handle more throughput, so you don't become a bottleneck anymore as the starter, the first person in the business, doing all the things.
Yeah, I do agree. I've heard that a couple of times where people are saying the best thing for a manager to know is when to get out of the way of really talented people.
Yeah.
So
I try very hard to get people involved who are better at their jobs than I am. And so and then know who needs managing and who can be taught once, and then just leave them alone, because then they can just do it. And you ask them for whatever it is that you need. I need an inventory count, or I need the analytic report, or whatever, and let them do the thing, and don't constantly be looking over their shoulder and try to micromanage people.
When you talk about the business side of it, I do want to transition gears a little bit and talk a little bit more about some of the sexier stuff, like your imagery. Something that I noticed with Nord Books the first time I opened, I think Skullduggery or something like that, just the artwork was amazing. It was on par, just knowing you guys and knowing the fact that it was like you and Ralph and a couple other people that, Andrew and a couple other people that I met. And then you open the book and you're like, this is Wizards of the Coast level imagery and writing. If you could just talk about like, what sort of ethic did you want to put behind your books and your artwork, and also who is, doing all your artwork right now?
So I'll answer the second question first. We have a whole collection of very talented artists. And I think last time I looked at the folder, we probably have 20 different artists who contribute in various ways. We try to find artists who have specific talents. We go, you know what, we really need some black and white line artwork for this. Let's talk to so-and-so, because we know that they can produce really good black and white, but their color stuff might not be there yet, or that just isn't their jam. But we have other artists where we go, we really need a cover, or we have a piece like this,
Yeah.
where we really need something that is going to be a wow. And Ralph is the one who determines who is going to have what piece, and then he works with them with reference images, his own little scribbles and stuff, which is really fun to watch his little stick figures and whatnot, because he's a very good actor, and he can draw dinosaurs really well, but his gesture artwork and stuff like that is all stick figures and whatnot. So, but he gets the point across. That's the main point. So yeah, the artist, the artwork we wanted to make sure was always going to be top notch. And we wanted it to be a book where we open it up and go, yeah, this is good. I like looking at these images. And we obviously took our inspiration from companies like Wizards of the Coast and Kobold Press and Frog God Games to have those really striking images. But then when it came to the actual layout, we wanted to do our own thing as much as possible, conform to the 5e standards with stat blocks and things like that, but obviously make it our own, our own trade dress and our own colors and our own general style. And we've been improving that more and more every product, I believe. Everything that we put out is, I hope, better than the one before it, not to diminish the one before it, but we're learning things, and we're finding that we can maybe try this style, put this kind of color in there, put this kind of drop shadow, put this kind of texture, and it really starts to pop off the page more and more. And there's a lot of design decisions we make that no one will ever notice, only we do, but you might not understand, you might see it, not understand what it is, but know that you like it. And there's a lot of typography and design and color choices that go in that people don't understand why they like it. They just know that they like it. And so that's really important. There's a lot of psychology when it comes to design. And then the other question that you had, I've already forgotten. What was the first question?
It was just about what was sort of the ethic behind it. Did you guys say, I want to be on par with Wizards of the Coast kind of thing?
I mean, because you could have had the content, the text and the content, and put it in black and white and do stick figure art and put that out. Like I've seen other companies do. You spent the money clearly to get the artists on board. Yeah,
and there's a couple different ways of looking at that. One is that sometimes content is just so good you don't care if there's a good artwork or not. But it's almost like, are you going to go and eat at a really good taqueria that looks like complete trash on the outside? And
yes.
that, well, I'm just saying, like, if you already know that it's good, you'll go there. But sometimes people will look at a book and go, I don't want that because I don't like the cover. And so, sorry, we're next to the airport. Can you hear that?
Yeah, it's kind of coming in.
That is the loudest plane. We can cut that part out. Or not, just leave it in, whatever.
It's the loudest plane ever.
Yeah, we're just a few blocks away from the Watsonville airport, and little planes are allowed to go out of there. Sometimes World War II planes, prop airplanes go out of there, and they can sometimes be very loud. I've heard that every time that they do take off, they get fined. So this dude with the old plane gets fined every single time he takes off.
Yep.
Anyway, so we did want to be on par with Wizards of the Coast. We did want to be on par with Kobold Press and Frog God Games. And it wasn't really about competition as much as it was about getting the appeal of the customers and getting them to pick up our product and go, this looks really cool, and open it up and go, this is really cool. They're going to judge the book by the cover. That's the fact of the matter. So that's why we spend a lot when it comes to our artwork and our design.
Is there sort of a percentage of, sort of a run that is like of the expense of a book? Is there a percentage that's art versus the other stuff, or is that not? Oh,
like a budget? It's so case by case. So a monster book, for example, is going to have, let's say, 120 pieces of individual art, and you're going to have a cover. Covers are, expensive compared to just individual pieces of art. You're going to have an interior, various interiors for each chapter. So if you're going to make a monster book, that is going to be probably your most expensive book artwork wise, because you're going to have one piece of artwork per monster, hopefully, and you're going to have one piece of artwork per chapter, a cover, and a table of contents. That's sort of how we gauge it. So that's going to be an expensive endeavor. Whereas other books might not be very expensive because maybe you only have 4 or 5 chapters and you just have one piece of artwork per chapter. And then the rest of it is we call filler art, which is basically putting something to accent that page. This adventure has something about an artifact. So you put the artifact in there when it's introduced, let's say, and you put that in the page so you can flip that around and show the players, this is what the artifact looks like. Maybe you have some runes or something like that are part of the adventure in the dungeon somewhere. So you put those somewhere on that page where those runes are introduced. That, I think, is a great way of using art and not going, not going to break the bank that way. It's going to be small pieces, and a lot of times you can get away with black and white and maybe make it a sepia tone on a nice parchment background, and it'll look good. And people will like that. That's the main thing, is making these books appealing to people and getting them engaged and interested in the adventure or the monsters or NPCs or whatever else it is that you're making.
So how did you learn all of those technical things about printing and creating cards, making books, because again, it's one of those things where, you talked about you were in marketing, and then all of a sudden now 2 years, 3 years, 4 years later, you're a book publisher. Like, if you're talking to somebody who's like, I have a module and I want to publish it, like, I'm sure you were there at one point in time going, well, how do I do this? And what do I do? And how do I start? Like, what was that like? What happened?
So the resources now in 2020 are vastly better than they were in 2011 and even 2016. There are resources like Drive-Through RPG, where you can put your stuff up and, as if you've got a good product, you can sell it digitally, you can have it printed on demand. That's a good way of getting into the hands of the people if you can't afford to go with a full print run. Print runs are probably going to be around 1,500 to 2,500 units minimum. Mm-hmm. And when I say unit, I mean a book, just a single book. So let's say that we make a 100-page adventure module, and we want it to just be printed soft cover. You're going to have to print 1,500 to 2,500 to, in the first run, to make it worth your while, to get the price down to where you can actually sell it and make money off of it. And pricing is all over the place. Depends on your manufacturer. And as far as your question about how did I learned through doing it and making a lot of mistakes along the way. Mm-hmm. And I do it all the time. I let people know, if you have questions, let me know, and I will answer all those questions for you, because I'd rather people are successful and learn from my mistakes. Mistakes, it's less of a mistake and more of that's how I could have done it, instead. But if people are interested, I talk to people all the time who are new into the industry and are curious about who we use for production on card decks or on books or board games or whatever. So I have no problem giving them some information about that, and also giving them some idea of prices. And a lot of times people go, oh my goodness, I had no idea that this was so complicated and could be so expensive. And it's like, do you actually want to make a product, or is it just a hobby? Do you want to really put something out there, or is it going to be something you're going to want to print 200 of and give them to your friends and family and stuff? So, but yeah, there's a lot of learning in the industry, and most everybody is, and I mean, I say most, I've never met anybody who wasn't willing to share information. Bill over at Frog God Games is full on like my mentor when it comes to all this stuff. He's educated me on everything. And then I've taken that and gone further with it, understanding different things that he wasn't into, like card decks, for example. Mm-hmm. You just learn from your elders or your allies in the community. And also a lot of times you can just ask the community questions and they'll point you in the right direction. Hey, I'm looking for an artist who does this. And all of a sudden you get 100 responses. Oh, this deviant artist over here, here's their link. Oh, this person's really good. I saw their stuff in this book or that book. And a lot of the publishers, we all know each other to a certain degree, so we can usually just call each other up or email each other and say, hey, I saw this piece in your book, I really like it, and is that artist available potentially? And we're totally fine, giving references and stuff and just saying, hey, here's their information, but FYI, they're really busy. Don't expect them to just jump onto your project. But most people are really chill in the industry, which is nice. Like I said, I've never met anybody who was like, no, I'm not going to help you out with that. You're beneath me or something like that. Everyone's really, really cool. And the quote I hear from Bill, or I've heard from him every time that I say, hey, thanks for your help in this and this. He always says, rising tides raise all ships. And that's what the whole industry is about. Everyone wants to succeed, and no one wants to be the person at the very top all alone. Everyone wants to, enrich everybody else's lives.
That's interesting to build on that. Do you kind of feel that that's true? Because I've noticed, and again, I haven't always been so tuned into what the manufacturers are doing or what the product developers are doing until we started actually running a channel. And so it opened my eyes to how much product is actually out there. Do you feel that, there's, besides everybody's talking about the resurgence in Dungeons and Dragons and fantasy role-playing and things like that, do you think at some point there will be a saturation in the marketplace, or do you think that we can all still continue to kind of rise together?
My marketing brain tells me that there will be a saturation in the marketplace at some point. But you do have so many people getting into it, and our companies, most of the third-party publishers for D&D, we're not 500 employees. We're small operations. In our entire company, I think we have about 10 people. And so, and then, that's not counting all the contractors that we work with who are writers or artists. But I think that there may be enough to go around for everybody. I've never, like I've said, never run into any situation where people were, standoffish about helping other people for the sake of protecting their own market share. I've never interacted with anybody like that. So I would hope that we will continue to see more and more people get involved in D&D, and more products come out that are good and useful. I back almost every fantasy role-playing game Kickstarter I see. And I'm now a super backer on Kickstarter, whatever that means. But Nord Games will back all of them. And I think that what's nice about that is we have followers, thousands of them, who follow us, and then they're notified that we backed this project. Mm-hmm. So that platform really gives a lot of automation to getting the word out. And so we try to do that as much as we can to help other publishers out. And some of them don't need our help, but some of them do. And so we do see small projects now and then where we go, this is really cool. I want them to succeed. And I'll definitely throw, $20 in or $50 or whatever it is, going to be something that we think we're going to use. And that's, I think the biggest key to a product is value. What is the value? Why should I buy it? And so that's when we're developing products, we always ask ourselves that question. What's the value of this product to the end user? Why should they buy it? And we only ever create products that we will use ourselves at our own tables. And if it's not something that we're going to use, we kind of have a hard time pitching it to someone else.
Gotcha. So I had a thought about that is, sort of a lot of people's journey through role-playing games is playing Dungeons and Dragons. And then you play that and you play that. And then somebody says, oh, have you seen this system? Or have you seen this, I want to play a sci-fi game, right? So, So we're going to see Dungeons and Dragons huge right now. I think at some point we will see that audience expand out into other game systems as well.
Potentially, yeah. Potentially. There's plenty of other systems out there. It's all, based on your own preferences. And would you prefer a sci-fi game? Then, go into Starfinder or, one of those systems. Rifts was one that I remember playing when I was a teenager, and Rifts, I think it was called, I'm pretty sure it was called Rifts. My friend ran it and I only got into a couple of games, but the way he explained it to me was, I knew about Dungeons & Dragons, and he said, well, in this game, you could be a Neanderthal who wields a shotgun, rides a Harley Davidson that flies, and you've got cybernetic arms or something like that. And I was like, wow, that's covering a lot of different bases. What's going on? And he said, basically, every session we jump into a different time and technology. And I was like, that's cool. So along the way, you pick up different things.
Mm-hmm.
And so there can be magic, there can be technology, there can be a lack of technology. And I think that's interesting and appealing to people. But whatever your flavor, whatever you want is really where you should go with your gaming time and your role playing enthusiasm.
So speaking of which, gaming time, I know that most of us who make things don't have a lot of time to play things. What are you a fan of? What are you playing right now?
D&D. So I play 5th edition D&D. In the past year or so, I haven't had an awful lot of time to be able to play just with friends and stuff, but that has more to do with the fact that I have 2 little boys at home and not a lot of free time. I'd rather spend it with them, and that's totally cool. Hopefully when they get old enough to play, we'll all play together and stuff. I find that most of my D&D is at conventions right now, which makes me super bummed that the conventions are postponed or canceled for the time being, because I have a module that I was really wanting to play more of and test out that would go into our catalog once I ironed out a few wrinkles here and there. But I if you ask me, hey Chris, what game do you want to play? We have 3 hours. I would say, let's get some D&D going, and bust out all the miniatures and all that stuff. And I've got huge amounts of pre-gen characters and stuff ready to go. And I'm very good at improv. Like, I can just create an adventure on the fly, and it just, I can create it right off the top of my head, and we can just be into something interesting from the get-go. And then Dwarven Forge allows me to build dungeons out very, very quickly. And so if we wanted to do that, I could do that in a moment's notice, or it's always fun to go back through the starter set and play some of those through that adventure. I played it, I think, 9 times so far. I run it 9 times, and with different groups, sometimes similar. So sometimes the same friend is in multiple sessions, and they go, "Oh, that's interesting. We went about it that time a different way," or something like that. But that's what really got me really into 5e, because I was on 2nd edition until 5e came out, and then really started to see the value in that system, and how they streamlined a lot of things from 3.5 and all that. And so I like the emphasis on storytelling and role play over combat. So that's why I like the 5e system the best. So
nice. So when GaryCon was canceled, I actually went and I ran a module I'm working on and virtual GaryCon.
Yeah.
So it was so a lot of these cons now are setting up that virtual space so that you can run, still play and run games. So there would be, I know Origins is going to do a virtual June, and then they're coming back in October for the actual convention. But so there's options if you need to play test stuff. Definitely options.
Yeah, and the other aspect of things is just what we're dealing with right now with the corona pandemic, and there's an awful lot of extra stuff that's happened, having to go through me. So my time is extremely limited these days when it comes to gaming. Unfortunately, we do have a company retreat every year. We started it last year, actually, where we get together. We just play a ton of games, and board games, card games, and especially D&D, just to everyone have some fun together and stuff, and all be in the same area. Here at the office, we have a 14-foot long conference room table where we can get everybody around it, and we've got tons of space for all the terrain and characters and character sheets and miniatures and all that stuff. So it makes for a fun time. And so that's my preferred way to play, with just tons of time, tons of space, and order some pizza and just make it a long session. At the conventions, I usually try to give a 6-hour session, and many of the players who have been in on those games say the reason I chose your game is because you do a 6-hour session instead of the 3-hour session, because what are you going to get done in 3 hours compared to 6 hours? And no one has to rush anything. It can be a more relaxed experience, and so that's why I try to do that.
We have a arena combat show called the Mitten, where it is it's kind of it was Total Party Chill, another stream out there. They did the Gauntlet, which was they open up a WizKids minis box. They're sponsored by them, and then they fight it with community main characters. So we created the Mitten, which is our version of the Gauntlet. It just has the thumb in the hand,
and it's kind of soft and fuzzy. It's not really. It's we're kind of a bit of a mess sometimes. So really, we're not Gauntlet material. We're Mitten material.
Yeah, I gotcha.
So and one of the things that I have no idea what my point was going to be.
That's
anyway.
Cool.
We will have it's just combat, right? So you're just going to run combat, and there's still an hour of role playing that happens in front as everybody introduces their character together, and they try and figure everything out. You're like, this is just combat. You're just gonna I'm like, okay, but seeing those relationships work out. So our 4-hour session becomes a 5-hour session because there's because people don't actually just want all combat, because that's not a lot of fun without the context of who the characters are and the story.
I try to pace if I'm going to go in for a one shot, a single thing, and at conventions where you're going to get around the table with a bunch of people who may or may not know you, and you may not ever play with them again, I try to give them an experience where we start out with the role playing and intrigue portion. It's sort of like a 3-act play. You have establishing all the characters, establishing the goals and the general story and where we are, what we're doing, why we're doing it. Give motivations to each one of these pre-gen characters that I bring, and give secret information on their character sheets and stuff that they might want to keep secret from anybody else, or maybe just certain party members. And I always encourage, if you need to go over there and talk to each other just by yourselves, do that, and then come back. And because if there's certain information that other people shouldn't know, don't tell them. So get that going, get people more and more interested, potentially have some sort of combat if need be, fight the guards or something like that. If maybe if you're in a city, you're trying to get out, guards won't let you out, whatever. And start to reveal more and more of the story as you go, and get to a point where maybe the combat doesn't really get serious until the 3rd act, and there's really something, some high stakes or something like that. In the game that I was running, so every year I make an adventure, and I run that all year at the conventions. So every single convention, I do the exact same adventure for a whole year. And so the adventure I was running, the 3rd act, they were in the snake cult temple, and that's where they were, and that was where they're going to end the game. So depending on what they decided to do, they were going to have a lot of combat or not very much combat. Like it's totally up to them how they're going to handle it. So I think that all in all, when it comes to building out your adventures, as long as you keep people engaged, and as long as you always have an answer for something, even if it's a total throwaway line, as long as you can answer that for them, that's really the best thing you can do to keep things moving. And the worst thing you can do when you're running a game of D&D is have people get disengaged from it and start looking at their phone, or start, concentrating on something totally different than the game. And that can be very problematic. But I try very hard just to keep everyone engaged and keep things rolling along, and make sure that if anyone hasn't been interacted with, because they're not stepping forward and saying, I do this, I do that, I always then pull them into it somehow. And, let's say that Jay is the guy who has just been sitting in the back, not saying anything, and his character right now is with them in the mines and, not doing anything, but observing. Well, I'm going to get him involved one way or another. He's going to hear something, or he's going to trip over something, or he's going to somehow get engaged. And then that'll start to take us, further along in the story, where it's like, oh, Jay, you hear the echoing of some sort of dripping in the distance. And He goes, well, okay, steps forward and gets engaged. So, and that's really important skill to have, is to make sure that people who may not be willing to get engaged like everybody else do get some attention, as necessary. You don't want to put them on the spot necessarily, but, get them engaged and everyone can have a much better time.
So in those sessions, you talked about play testing some of it. Do you use cons to play test? And how do you, what are the things that you play test? Is it monsters? Is it scenarios? Where are you looking for, how are you looking to solve problems, and what are those problems?
I think the biggest thing, because as long as you do all your math correctly and the monsters are theme appropriate, then you should be okay as far as what monsters that you picked. What I try to test for is plot holes. So when you're creating your adventure, you ever watch a YouTube video where someone just points out all the plot holes in a movie? Yeah. And it's like, wow, that's super obvious. Why weren't we always just driving our spaceships into hyperspace at other spaceships to destroy them? Duh. But so there's plot holes that get pointed out while you're playing your adventure, sometimes by certain people that you're playing with, because they're noticing something that you didn't necessarily think about. And so you're able to patch that hole up with some explanation. And that's, I think, the biggest thing that I play test for is the plot holes. Because first and foremost, you want to have your story solid. You want to have, good motivations between all the characters. You want to have a good overarching reason for things to be happening. And then you want to make sure that there's no but wait, there's this spell that can do that, all that stuff. You want to make sure that there's some explanation why you have to go into the dungeon and do this thing, and there's no other way of getting around it. And if there's another way, then put that into the story. Make it, if you want to add that to the story, then by all means do it. But sometimes you have a player who's just so good at pointing out these mistakes that it improves the story. And you don't want to just go, you don't want to go to market with something that hasn't really been tested. You don't want to say, I'm so good, I'm the best writer ever, and I'm just going to put this thing out there and everyone can enjoy it. And then you find out, oh, there was a huge plot hole that I didn't even think about. I didn't put it out to a smaller group of people and actually play it before I took it to market.
Go ahead.
Do you mind if we switch gears?
Oh, yeah.
So we're in a situation now, this COVID-19 thing is really changing everything, right? And the period that we are in right now. Can you talk about how you are handling it with, especially 3 major projects that you need printed, right? So how is that, and how are you addressing it and trying to, keep moving with these setbacks?
There's 2 issues. One is the design side of things, and one is the production side of things. Well, there's 3 really: design, production, fulfillment. Those are the 3 things that you're going to have in any one of these Kickstarters. You're going to have that phase of getting all the content into the book, getting your files ready, send that to production. They get it made into a physical product, then they ship it to you, you ship it to the backers. So right now, we were fortunate in that we already had Treacherous Traps and Spectacular Settlements done and sent to our printer in China. But that's where COVID started, and things are still backed up, I think 10 weeks on shipping or something like that. It's crazy. There's a lot of problems with freight shipping via ocean. They can still do air shipping quickly, but it's super expensive, ridiculously expensive. But the freight shipping via boat is backed up. So the first thing we did once this whole thing in January, once things really started to be exposed, we started looking for other production facilities in the US and Europe. Then in February, we'd already sent our files in February to our production facility, and they kept on updating us saying, everything's still shut down. Everything's still shut down. They had, I think, extended the Chinese New Year and stuff. There was, there was various things that kept on getting things pushed back. And we said, well, we're going to have to find an alternative. And we could not find an alternative in the US that had the sort of quality that we were looking for at the quantity and prices that we were looking for. So, and as I discussed earlier, if you don't have the right price, you're not going to make any money and you can't have a company like that. So we started seeking other options in Europe, and we found a really good one. We got all the samples from them, excellent quality, and the right price too. And they're not as impacted as China or the US now with COVID-19. So everything's in production now. So we're good there. The real key is how is the shipping going to be affected from Europe in 2-3 weeks when the production's done? I don't know. These are all unknowns, and we're at the mercy of the situation right now. So once those are done and fulfilled to us, then we will go ahead and start shipping them out to the backers. So yeah, but you just have to roll with the punches. We couldn't have, the whole world is sort of caught on their back foot on this whole situation because it only started in November, December time period and has just gone out of control. I think that the latest numbers are in the US, over 100,000 people have been confirmed to have it. I don't know all the maybe more than that actually.
It's 500,000.
Is it 500,000?
Yeah.
I mean, I watch the news every day, but it's just sort of blurring out now. It's just the numbers are so staggering. Yeah. I think I saw something about 15,000 people have died from it, and it's just. But like, how are you supposed to? I guess moving forward, we can plan for these kinds of contingencies and all that. But if the supply chain shut down, the supply chain is shut down. What are you going to do about that? Mm-hmm. So it basically just puts everything on delay. We had everything ready to be produced in China on February 3rd, I think is the date that jumps out in my mind. We had sent them all the files and everything, and then we had to completely switch facilities. So right. How are you supposed to see the future in that? You really can't. Right. So there's a certain amount of just rolling with it that has to happen.
Right. And in the meantime, the content is still available, right? So if somebody wanted to, they could go to your website via our link down below and could purchase all the PDFs of these books that are still in production right now and get access to that content.
We decided because of the circumstances, normally we don't put out anything for sale until the Kickstarter has been fulfilled. But considering the circumstances, we decided to go ahead and make them available. You can also add your name to the wait list if you go onto any of the product pages for Treacherous Traps, Spectacular Settlements, or the Dreaded Accursed, and you select an option that is out of stock, like the hardcover or hardcover plus PDF. You'll be able to add your name to the wait list, and as soon as it is in stock, you'll be emailed automatically and be able to come back and purchase. We're also going to work out something for anybody who purchased the PDF now and wants to come back and purchase the hardcover plus PDF later. That bundle gives you a discount. So we'll figure out something for those people.
Yeah, that was kind of my question is just, have you thought about what you had to do to compensate and how that kind of affects your Kickstarters going forward? Like, will it always be a PDF plus package? Will it be, once we fulfill, you can buy this in addition,
I would like to not do that in the future. I thought we had a pretty good system going where once it was available or once it was fulfilled, then it would become available on the website. I like that just because it gave those backers first priority. I think with the circumstances, people can understand why we did it this way this time. The hope is that we can get past COVID-19 and get back to some version of normal. And then I'd like to go back to the old way that we used to do it, preferably.
So once we get done with this run, sneak peek, anything you guys are thinking about for next year? Have you guys started to ruminate on anything exciting maybe?
You have one book that is in design right now.
Yeah.
The Ultimate Guide to Alchemy, Crafting, and Enchanting is in design right now. It is looking very good. This is a book that I started at North Texas RPG Convention 3 years ago, I think it was, might even be 4 years ago. I think I was having a conversation with my brother and Steve Winter of TSR and Wizards of the Coast, and I was just sort of spitballing on, how do we handle alchemy in 5th edition, because Steve helped write it, and he was like, there's some very loose rules and stuff, but nothing that concrete. And I was like, I think we should make something like that. And my brother was like, that sounds cool. And he started coming up with some ingredients based on the monsters, and I started coming up with what kind of professions might there be, and what would they focus on, and why would it be appealing? It always comes back to value. Why would someone buy this? What is it going to do for them? And I thought it would just add something cool to their game. They can now find items or buy items that can allow them to change them into other things. I'm going to buy this many of this herb, and get this special distilled water, and get this special ingredient, and now I can make some sort of potion out of that. And you use your skill to help out your whole team accomplish their goal of staying alive and accomplishing whatever quest it is that they're going after. So brewing potions, crafting weapons and armor, enchanting items of all kinds, I think it's kind of a no-brainer. Solid rules to be able to do that, I think, is going to help out the players and dungeon masters alike. And then as far as sneak peeks, we will have a follow-up to Spectacular Settlements called Dangerous Destinations. And we've done all the nice places to go and visit, and settlements, all that stuff. Now we're going to do all the dangerous places. So the haunted forests, the enchanted valleys, the tombs and crypts and spires and dungeons and caverns, and all the places where all the bad things lurk. And essentially treat it the same way as we did with settlements, and give you a guide for building them out and making interesting places to take your adventures.
Mm-hmm. I know at least one of my settlements that is in the book, and I can't wait to get, is not a nice place to visit.
Well,
it is that trading post that popped up out of nowhere and is run by a crime family. This
Dangerous Destinations is more like where the monsters lurk, and less so urban environments, more where the monsters have their layers and that kind of thing, and all the lore behind them, and maps and whatnot for you to play with. And so Dangerous Destinations, that's going to be a big one. We are working on Ultimate NPC's Alchemy, and then the last one is a super secret project that I can't tell you about yet.
Okay,
it's
that's fine.
cool.
Nice. We had, so we last night I had an inspiration for a deck. So I'm like, okay, great. I'm up at 3 a.m. with ideas, like writing them down, like figuring this out. So I don't know. We've got a deck that we want to do. But
hey, I know a guy who can get it produced.
I've heard, I've seen. In fact, we had to just clean the table off, but all your decks are literally sitting all over there. Yeah.
Nice. You guys have all the newest stuff too, right? Objects of Intrigue and all that.
Yeah, we've got a lot of that stuff. We backed the Loresmith already.
Mm-hmm.
You guys are their U.S. distributor for Loresmith?
Yes. So we've opened up to doing fulfillment services and storage services for other publishers, and Loresmith is one of them. Loresmith is located in the Netherlands, and they don't have any location here to be able to fulfill their U.S. and Canada orders and whatnot. So Chris van der Linden, the owner over there, and I have been friends for a while, and we a while back just decided, hey, would it be worthwhile for Loresmith if Nord Games handled the fulfillment of Kickstarters and the fulfillment on orders on their website, orders of their product on our website, all that. And it's been working out great. And they make some really good quality products. Heroic Challenges is going to be a really fun addition to anybody's game, and just add some spice, add some interesting things to your objectives and all that, and interesting rewards.
You make some products that are really great at the table. Like right now, this is happening. The luck deck, where you are immediately interacting with the players and doing all that. But you also make a lot of stuff that is, useful in designing encounters, you know, as you're developing, you know, if you're not running if you're not running a published module, you know, having these ideas and these NPCs, just really, you know, being able to quickly grab. I love the back of the NPC books. You know, I'll just grab a stat block, put a name on it, you know, and it's an NPC or villain that is right in there.
Yeah, the whole idea behind those generic NPCs that we put in there was that we just didn't have enough options for the right challenge rating out of the monster manual. So I found a guard. That guard is I forget what it is, 1/4, 1/8 challenge rating. Okay, so every guard in the world is going to be 1/8. Right. So now I'm going to do some math. So can everyone bear with me while I do some math? No, we need something a bit more than that. And I totally understand Wizards has a certain amount of stuff that they create, but then they specifically left it upon the community to create the rest. And that was great of them to do that, because it's filled, we've been able to fill that need as a third-party publisher and put out content that is going to be something useful to the dungeon master who needs that, you know, CR2 or 5 or 10 guard. Instead of the one that you can find in the monster manual. So we try to focus on products that will be as useful as possible. So you've got a balance where you have the as versatile as possible, but still specific. You know what I'm saying? Like you try to make things that are infinitely repeatable, but you know, it can't really be infinite, but you can get close. You can make something to where they can play for 5 years and never end up with the same combination of things. In settlements, we have so many tables that I'm not sure it's possible that you could end up with the exact same settlement if you unless you had a die that only rolled, you know, only rolled 20s or whatever. You know, you could basically create a totally unique settlement each time you try to make, let's say, a trading post. You'd probably never roll the same one twice because there's so many different options and so many tables in there to be able to do that. But we try to also structure it in a way where it's very easy and streamlined to go through, no matter what product that we're making, something that has an ordered structure to it. Otherwise, like for me, I don't have enough time to try to figure out how to make this work. I want to be able to just go, okay, it's easy as 1, 2, 3, good. You know, I've got it. And thinking outside the box and bringing in elements into people's games that they might have not thought about on their own, because we're all very creative people to a certain degree, but some of us are more creative than others, and some of us just need a little bit of extra help. And I know for my purposes, I don't have the time most of the time to come up with all the different aspects of the thing that I'm trying to run. So having those resources is good. And then what we've been able to do at Nord is get more writers involved over the years. So we get different perspectives and stuff, and everyone brings their own valuable perspective to the product, and it makes for a better product.
So is that integral in the design for treacherous traps and settlements? Because I did go through some of the traps books as well, and I was like, you're bringing up really good points that I may have never thought about when I was designing a trap. And I was like, oh, that's a thing. Maybe I should think about that. That's interesting. Is that where sort of that layout comes from? Because I thought that those books were definitely well designed to think through things and to bring things up to players or DMs that may have never considered options like that.
So Treacherous Traps is the collaboration of myself, Steve Winter, Andrew Gertson, Spike Murphy, and I think that Megan Roy was involved in that too. Josh Perry. There's probably 6 or 7 people all putting their interpretation into there. And we had Steve giving us the old school ideas, and that's where the random trap generator chapter came from. And so he and I, this is probably 2 years ago at North Texas. North Texas is a place where we do a lot of collaboration. We sat down and started talking about traps, and he said, well, I used to have a random trap generator that I used to use. And so he rewrote it for 5th edition. I took it and I expanded upon it to make it where you could roll 2D 100s, and you can make, I think, one of 2,500 different traps or something like that. And then you can flavor that even more to, you know, make it even more unique. And so you end up with a trigger, unique trigger and a unique effect. Yep. So yeah, getting more people involved in the writing process is definitely more beneficial, in my opinion. You do have certain issues where different opinions start to clash, unfortunately. But if you have a good writing team, people can resolve differences by saying, okay, well, here's a compromise. Or one person says, okay, well, we'll go your way with it because it's obvious that my thought on this topic is not as popular as yours is, or something. So I think that's kind of the most important thing when collaborating, is knowing when to stick to your opinion and when to accept that other people might have some better thoughts. It happens to me all the time where I go, this is the way I like it. And then someone else says, well, what about this? And I go, that's better. So, you can't be too proud.
I think both of us need to work on.
Yeah.
You can't be too proud. You can't be too proud when it comes to design, because if you're so stubborn about it, you're not going to get progress. I think personally, I think that you do have to have a certain amount of give and take.
Okay.
So we're coming up on quite a while now at this point. You wanna any last questions you wanna throw
Nope.
out?
I think we've thrown too many curveballs at you already, Chris. I think I had like 6 questions for you, and I was like, what about this? What about that?
I could talk about game design and the industry at length. Like I said earlier, whenever anybody emails or reaches out via Facebook or something like that, hey, I have some questions about this or that, I just give them my phone number and I say, call me when you're free. And they call me and I'll talk to them for however long it needs to last to explain, the answers to their questions. And as long as people are getting wisdom out of it, that's better than what I had. I had a certain amount of wisdom at the beginning, and then I started learning more and more and more. And it really wasn't until, like I said, I met Bill at Frog God Games that I really started to understand a lot more about the industry. And if I can help someone out, save them 2-3 years of their life trying to figure it out, then I'm happy to do that, because otherwise you're in the weeds for a while. There's really great resources, and we should list these in the video description, but Game Crafter is definitely one that we should list in there. That's great for getting prototype stuff done, cards, and I'm not sure how much they do as far as books and stuff, but Drive-Thru RPG is where you want to go to get prototype books made. And then just if you have a project that you want to shop around to different publishers, there's lots of different publishers out there who are eager and willing to work with additional writers and get more content in their catalog.
Yeah. So Gamma was happened right at the beginning of all of this.
Yeah.
I still went. I joined Gamma as a contributing member. We're not a publisher yet, so but Andrew Gertzen was very pro Gamma and really pushed that, and we went and we got a lot of value out of it.
Yep.
And Gamma is the Game Manufacturers Association.
We decided not to go. We were all signed up to go. We decided not to go specifically because of the health risks. We have employees who have compromised immune systems and things of that nature, and there was absolutely no way that we were going to risk that. And we were hesitant up until like the week before, and then we just said we're not going to do this. And so we contacted them and let them know. A lot of companies pulled out. I know that Wizards was one of the biggest ones to pull out. It's very unfortunate, but it is what it is.
I've never seen people in the men's room wash their hands more
Good
than at Gamma.
Good.
It was,
nice to
there
see
was
a silver
nobody
lining
that I ever saw walk out without washing their hands. So
yeah, but that's a great resource. So anybody who is interested in the industry, the Gamma show and Origins are both good shows to go to. Gamma is very educational, lots of seminars and things of that nature, and then they've got 2 days of open show time with booths and that
Exhibit
kind of thing.
hall,
Exhibit hall. So
what's the best way to contact you?
Contact me. Well, my cell phone. No. Go to the Nord Games website, fill out a contact form, and depending on how you respond, what option you select, it'll probably end up in my inbox, unless it's a support email or something like that. So everyone can feel free to reach out to me, and I'm happy to get back to them as soon as I can. And like I said, discuss the industry, share my wisdom, and give them sort of a head start. And we've learned a lot over the years, and I'm glad to share that wisdom.
Awesome. Cool. Thank you so much. We are going to jump back into the rest of our podcast now. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you. Thank you for everything that you guys do. We love to watch it.
So that was a great conversation that we had with Chris. We just kind of meandered here and there and wherever, just because it's kind of fun to talk to people and find out what their experiences are. So I think that's it for us this week.
That's it. Talked about all the stuff that you spent money on and I spent money on and didn't tell you about. We had an interview with Chris from Nord Games. We talked about Loresmith, Black Cat RPG, enamel pins. Be sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel, to our podcast, and leave us a rating and a review on the podcast because it is brand new. We need people to know about this behind-the-scenes look at Quest and Chaos and the tabletop gaming industry.
Yeah, I kind of feel like that's where the podcast is going a little bit more so. It's kind of like what we find interesting and things that we can kind of show you that not everybody tells you about, like what's under the table kind of thing. So,
in this virtual world, it's not pants.